Record. All right, good morning. So, we're going to be talking today about working from home, helpful tips and strategies. And, it's perfect that we started out with a tech issue this morning because that is true to life. We're going to have moments where things don't go perfectly, even when we did a Zoom call last week and everything went beautifully. It was our first. Today's our second webinar on Zoom. And, as we have to adapt and change, we're going to come across some obstacles and challenges. And so, that's perfect that we can talk about that. And thanks so much for your patience as we got started this morning. My name is Abby Horton. I'm a registered nurse and I'm a faculty member over at the Capstone College of Nursing. And I am a certified health and life coach, a wellness ambassador, and most recently a wellness class educator. And I want to call your attention to the website that I've added to this slide. Some of you I know have joined our call last week, and then I know some of you are new today, and that's perfectly fine. These classes are meant to be standalone, but they also can build on one another. And so tomorrow we'll be talking about creating rhythms and routines for home life and for family, but also talking about being able to work as well. And so last Thursday we talked about stress and coping and just how to manage our stress. So all of these classes really have some overlap, and I think you would get some benefit out of listening to all of them, and they'll be available at the wellness website, so wellness.ua.edu. And Carolyn McVicker and Ashley Bowman are doing a wonderful job of putting resources there available to you, especially during this COVID-19 crisis that we find ourselves in. And so Carolyn has some coping resources. So if you want to just take a screenshot of the wellness website where you can get some great coping resources, that would be a great benefit to you, and we encourage you to go and look at those. And then my contact information, my email, abby.horton@ua.edu, is actually listed on the slide as well. I know some of you are joining from your cell phones, and so you may not be able to see that, but then you can just kind of navigate to the wellness website and get these resources later. There will be at least a PDF available to you of all of the resources that we mentioned, just because we want you to have a really great toolkit to help you with this transition to working from home or teaching online. And so that'll be there for you. We also want to mention the latest adjustment that we've made in the wellness office is to offer the virtual Crimson Couch to 5K, which is really exciting. And so this is just a snippet of what was shared in a wellness email that was sent out this morning. So if you hadn't gotten to log into your email this morning, there is going to be an email about how to do the virtual 5K. And basically, it's just you can do the 5K or 10K option. You can walk or run it this weekend on Saturday like we had planned to do together as a community, and then you can take a picture of your actual time, or you logging your miles in, and then tag the wellness office using hashtag Wellbama or hashtag CC25K, and actually do it virtually. So that's a really cool option and a way to stay really active this weekend. And Ashley put together a wonderful Spotify playlist for you, and that's in the newsletter. That's a download. So but we'll go ahead and get started with actually, talking about how to work from home well. And so some of our webinar goals for today will be to talk about how to manage multiple responsibilities. For those of you who don't know me, I have 5 young school-age children at home. So they're ages 7 to 12, and so you may hear them in the background. We have a puppy at home too, so you may hear him. So we'll talk about how to manage those responsibilities, especially for those of you who are probably, schooling at home, or, having to maybe be a caregiver during this time. So we'll do some deep dives into that. We'll explore some common challenges or obstacles and how to successfully navigate the transition to online or remote work. And then we'll talk about specific strategies that promote that work-life balance. And so some of this information is going to be familiar to those of you who joined us last week, but I think it's important because I may not get the opportunity to ever meet you or encounter you or teach a class for you. And so there's some touch points that I like to include in almost every presentation, and certainly mental health is one of those. And so this is a graphic that I put together of some favorite images that remind me that perfection is not the goal. And so, really when we think about our goals and our mindset around this new way of living and working right now, is just to remember that it's temporary and that things are going to return back to kind of our baseline at some point, and we just need to worry about, what we can control, and try not to really worry about it as much as you just need to focus on what you can control. So I say that a lot: control what you can control and then kind of let the rest go. And so the goal is not to be completely, free of all negative thoughts. We're humans. We know that we're going to have thoughts of worry or some anxious thoughts, but really to think about how we can change our response to that stress. And then don't worry about the things we can't control. Remind ourselves in that third image, these are the things that I can control. You can't control your spouse or your partner or your children or your pets, or the situation that's going on, but you can control your attitude, your actions, how you behave, those sorts of things. So kind of concentrate and focus on that. And then think about the things that matter and the things that you can control, and they intersect in that last diagram, the Venn diagram, which I love so much, and really focus there. There are some things that we can control that, maybe aren't so important right now. And so let those things go too, and just focus on the things that matter plus the things that you can control, and really draw your attention there. And so, again, when we think about mental health during this time, there may be a lot of stress and anxiety about, working from home and how you're going to manage that well. And so there's a checklist here for you. If you're feeling overly sad or angry or overwhelmed or just not yourself, you may be feeling more of that just because of the context of COVID-19. But just in general, are you feeling just different or just feeling a little off? Are you using unhealthy coping mechanisms? Have you lost someone or something? We can grieve events. We can grieve birthday parties. We can grieve graduations. So there may be some grief there that you need to kind of address. There may be a trauma or a major life event, or you can, think about, have you stopped kind of using coping strategies that were really positive for you in the past? Certainly, we all are doing things different from our norm, from our everyday right now, as we socially isolate. But think about, if you're really needing some help, and then here's how to get help. So we have some great EAP resources available through American Behavioral Health, and they have appointments and counselors that are available to you in Tuscaloosa. Many counselors in Tuscaloosa, since we've gone to social isolation and kind of sheltering in place, with this 24-hour curfew until April, are offering virtual appointments. And so don't assume that you can't get help. There are also some telehelp that you can do online from home. So definitely reach out. American Behavioral also has a 24/7 wellness support chat. And so there's tons of great resources for you if you do need some extra support. And then the CDC also has some available resources as well. So hopefully that will be a help to you, or maybe someone that that might need some resources. Those could be a starting place for y'all. So, with this, mindset matters so much. We have to really acknowledge our feelings and acknowledge how we want to cope with the situation that we're in currently. And so, one thing that I think is really important is to think about, 6 months or a year from now, how do we want to remember this time? We can see the things that we're missing out on, and we can see the things that aren't going so well. Certainly, there are people that we probably love and care about who are being impacted in a really impactful way, in terms of sicknesses or births, or just missing out on some milestone events and things like that. So certainly we should probably have some level of disappointment. That would be expected. But how do we want to remember this time? Do we really want to embrace it as, a reset, as a way to think about, our lives? And when we are able to return to kind of quote unquote normal, what do we want that normal to look like, and how can we show up really well for it? And so pursue a positive mindset throughout this process. Really challenge any negative beliefs that you might have. So many times we can say, well, I can't do that, or this circumstance is preventing that. And really we can challenge those negative beliefs and look for the positive, and we'll walk through how to do that. Seek help when you need it. Take care of your mental and physical health, which is so important. We'll talk about that as well. Plan and prepare for the unexpected. And sometimes you can plan and prepare and still things will go wrong, or maybe things went really well when you tried it one time and then the next time you tried it doesn't go so well. And that's okay. That's life. Sometimes when we talk about stress management, we think that we're supposed to eliminate all stress, and that's not realistic. The goal is not zero negative thoughts. The goal is not zero stress. It's really manage and coping with it well, and really thriving in the face of stress, not eliminating it totally. Stay informed, but without overloading yourself. There are a lot of people who I know in my personal life who are really up to date on everything that's going on, but it's not serving them well, and it's not good for their mental health. So if you check a couple of times a day, 2 or 3 times a day on the news for updates, then that's probably sufficient. And if you're not checking, you probably have a loved one who's checking more frequently, who's probably texting you updates. I don't know if that's true for you, but it's true for me. And so you may just want to take a step back and not, really update as much as you've been doing, because that can just be a really difficult thing in terms of mindset when you're hearing so much stress and overload and negative things that it's hard to filter out. So we're probably, most of us are on week 2 or week 3 of having a different kind of normal, and so you may be feeling a little tired or weary this week. And so we want this to be a really good encouragement and source of support for you. Prioritize your task and then be flexible, because things are going to come up and you just kind of roll with what you're given. And so I think it's important to really, create that sense of grace for yourself, because we're not going to be perfect. And then self-reflection. Self-reflection is something that I like to do on a fairly, regular basis. But here's some questions for you to think about when you get off the call today. Maybe take 10 or 15 minutes to just sit and digest what we talk about. I want this to feel really conversational and personal. And just sit and think, what do I want my truth to be when this is over? What do I want to be able to say as I look back on this time? When life returns to normal, what do you want to be able to say about this time that you're in now? And think about what you don't want it to be like. And that may help you. So if you don't know what you want to get out of the next few weeks working from home and kind of experience this unprecedented time in our history, then think about what you don't want it to be. You probably don't want it to be stressful. You probably don't want it to be, a time where you just lived in your pajamas and snacked too much. So that can be a way for you to think about what you do want. And then think about what opportunities exist in this situation. So maybe you're getting some more time at home. Maybe you're marking some projects off your to-do list. Maybe you're connecting with your colleagues in a different way. Maybe it's making you really intentional about reaching out to your friends and family and your neighbors in, a socially distancing or physically distancing way. And then think about what your expectations are and what might need to change for you to show up really well during this time in your life. And then think about, what would your best self look like? How would your best self show up for this? What's the way that you would manage your time really well during this season? And then what needs to change? What needs to shift? Is it mindset? Is it your schedule? And so we'll talk about mindset, but we're going to talk about some practical things too. So remember to control what you can control, and remember to kind of do some good check-ins with yourself, because you're going to have moments where you feel like you're doing really well, and then you're going to have moments where you get overwhelmed and you have some setbacks, and there's going to be that ebb and flow as we navigate this season. But just remember that that's something to expect, and not to expect perfection. So some success strategies. I really like to get practical with these talks, because we can say to change your mindset. We can say to show up really well. We can give lots of great encouragement, but sometimes we just need somebody to tell us, okay, what are things that are working for you? And so set your alarm clock and get ready for the day. So these are success strategies for how to work well from home. clear the clutter and get organized. Y'all probably have had to carve out a space to work from home. And so that may, be a dedicated office with a door, but for some of you, it may be your kitchen counter or your kitchen table. So that's okay. Just make sure that when you set up your area to work, that it's really clutter-free and organized, because that's going to set you up for success. Probably you want to do a brain download every couple of days, if not every day, of just things that you need to jot down that are important. One thing that I'm going to do this week is to make a list for all the things that I want to do, not just tasks, but also things that I want to do once we're able to kind of move about freely and kind of return back to our quote unquote normal everyday life. And so that can be almost like a bucket list of things, but it can be some really practical things. Like, I know that my kids are going to need haircuts when we're able to go get haircuts again. But I also know that when I have an opportunity, I'd really like to go and get dinner with my husband without the kids. And so they can be task oriented, or they can just be, goals that you want to set for yourself to look forward to when you can. And so I'm seeing the chat. I want to make sure that everything's okay. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna look just in case. I don't want y'all to be having an issue and me not know. Okay. All right. Y'all were just answering someone's question. All right, perfect. It was flashing, so I wanted to make sure that y'all were okay. So just make that list and think about what it is that you want to do once this is over with. And we'll circle back around to that at the end of the presentation. Also make some to-do lists. So there may be some things that you have to get done in a day that you have to prioritize. And so make a list of everything that you can think of work related that you need to get done, or maybe even a list of personal things that you need to get done, and then prioritize those tasks and maybe pick 2 or 3 things a day that you want to accomplish, because that's going to set you up for success when you may get distracted or get some disruptions that you can't control. Then if you've gotten these 1 or 2 really important things done, you may feel better about that situation versus, feeling like you didn't set your alarm and you didn't get up and get ready for the day and you're already feeling like you're behind. And so that's really the purpose in getting up and preparing as if you were going into work. And it may be that because you're not commuting into work that you can set your alarm for an hour later than you normally would. But you're still getting up and getting ready before the day gets started. And I know that's true for me. I'm getting an hour back in the morning, and that's nice. Create that dedicated workspace in your house. So if you have the option to have an extra bedroom, a guest room that you can turn into an office, maybe borrow some things, some decor, some, items that you can use in this new space for the time being, and set up a really nice office for yourself. I know that I borrowed a few things around my house to set my office up for this week, and so that was really nice, and I'll return them back to their original homes eventually, but it's nice to have a good workspace that you feel good about being in. Try time blocking your schedule to complete your work. So, for me, as someone who teaches students and who, writes letters of recommendation, time blocking for me really helps. This is an example I'm going to give just from my work life. Lots of our students are needing recommendations right now. And so I time block, meaning that I know, okay, between 9 and 10, this is when I'm going to sit down and respond to student requests. And then I also batch the tasks. So instead of answering emails and answering calls and working on, recommendation letters, I will sit down and I will wait until I've gotten a handful of letters to write. And then I'll write those letters all at one time because I'm doing the same type of task. And my brain's not having to switch back and forth as frequently to adjust. And so time block or batch your tasks to try to really get a good schedule for you. And that can look really differently depending on the kind of work that you're doing, but I think that's helpful for most people. Set deadlines for yourself. Deadlines might be flexible right now because of our remote work that we're doing, but it's good to set deadlines for yourself so that you can stay motivated. Particularly for anyone that needs external motivation, having a deadline, even one that you set for yourself, can be really helpful. And that's something that I will do for me. So I know if I need to get something done by Friday, then I'm going to put that deadline on Wednesday for myself so that I'll be, ready and prepared a couple of days in advance. And so if something comes up, then I'm not going to be late with my project or my deadline. That can be really helpful, particularly as we're working from home. Reach out to your department and your colleagues if you have any questions or concerns, and reach out just to stay connected. Stay connected with your circle, and that includes your colleagues, that includes your family and friends, and be really intentional about that. So there's lots of great ways to stay, included and involved online. So lots of things like, virtual play dates or virtual dinner parties. I know some of my friends and I have done that. And so there are different things that you can do to stay connected. We are saying social distancing, but what we really mean is physical distancing. We can still be social, it's just going to take a new form. Find an accountability buddy. So if you do need that external motivation and kind of, accountability, having a friend, especially one who has a similar situation to you, can be really helpful. And so you can check in, whatever parameters that you set. Maybe it's once a day, maybe it's once a week, but check in with your accountability buddy and just see how you're doing and really, give an update. And that way you feel like you're, accomplishing probably more than you realize. Take frequent breaks to rest. Sometimes we can, especially at home, we can be, in one or two modes. We can either get really, focused, hyper focused, and work, 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 and not realize that the days pass by, or we can be that person that's getting constantly interrupted and we feel like we're not getting anything accomplished. And so it's important to kind of know what your situation is, and it may vary day to day, but take frequent breaks and kind of reassess, okay, am I spending too much time on this task? I find that's true. I'm getting more uninterrupted time at home in certain parts of my day. And so I'm letting the work fill the time versus me just setting a time limit and getting the tasks done. I'm able to sit with the work a little bit longer. And so I'm having to remind myself, okay, just because I have the time doesn't mean I need to spend that entire block of time on that one project. So just think about that. Take your breaks to really give some self-reflection time. Stay motivated. That might be, looking at fun things online. That might be looking at memes. That might be texting your best friend. But think of some ways to encourage yourself to be motivated. Give yourself some rewards. Treat yourself and celebrate those small wins. And then most importantly, ask for help. So we're all in this together. We're all having to do things that we normally wouldn't be doing. And so everyone is feeling a little bit of that same stress. And so that can be really important in terms of community, because all of us are needing a little extra support. All of us are needing a little bit more encouragement or more check-ins with each other. And so just remember that we're all in that same situation. And so give yourself grace and then give others grace as well. So for routines and rhythms, routines are important for productivity because we really like to know what to expect. Our brains are hardwired to know what to anticipate. And so when we're in a situation that's new, like working remotely and having this, COVID-19, crisis or pandemic, however you want to, really describe this situation, it can be difficult because we want to know what to expect. And many of us are so in the habit of doing certain things every day that it's quite the adjustment to be working from home or taking care of, family members as a caretaker or schooling children at home, which we'll talk about tomorrow. And so that can be a challenge. And so creating a new routine while while you're in this season will be really helpful for you. And try to structure your day as much like a typical day for you. And so, you're probably not doing carpool drop-offs and you're not, having a commute into work. But if you set your alarm and you get dressed for the day, you put your, casual work clothes on, you get dressed to your shoes. For me, it's putting on my watch. I always know I'm in work mode if I've got my watch. And so I've got it on today. Whatever it is that makes you feel like you're getting ready for the day. And then structure your day, the rest of the day, like that. So work for 2 or 3 hours, have a lunch time, and then work for 2 or 3 more hours. And then have an ending to your day. So you want to have a start to your work day, but you also want to have an ending. When you're at home and you're working from home, your work life can kind of spill over into each other. And so whatever time you set for yourself is fine, but just say if it's 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, that you switch gears. So now you're going into maybe family and personal time at 5 o'clock, and create a ritual that will help you. So we probably all have rituals like that when we get home from work and we, park our cars and we walk into our homes. We might change clothes in a typical work day. We might, sit down and have, water or coffee or something in the afternoon. We probably have a way of transitioning home from our regular work life that we may not hear because we're in our homes, we're not leaving. And so think about something that you can do to kind of trigger your brain and those that you live with. Okay, now I'm in family mode. So one suggestion Carolyn McVicker shared, one of her friends is doing, is she's actually wearing a hat. She's got a leprechaun hat that she's wearing. She's got young children, and while she's working, she's wearing the leprechaun hat. And her spouse is going to be the spouse that's kind of on. And so tomorrow we're talking about what a schedule will look like. And I'm going to show you one today too. And so the parent that's, parenting actively in the moment doesn't have the hat. So my recommendation is probably to let the parent that's actually playing with the kids or talking to kids, if that's your situation, for them to wear the fun hat, because then that will signal, hey, my parent that I need to go to right now is wearing the silly leprechaun hat. And that way you're not on a Zoom call with a leprechaun hat on. That's just my suggestion. But that's a great tip, because that's a good visual cue, not only for kids, but also for you and your spouse or partner or roommates or whatever your situation looks like. Okay, I'm in work mode. I don't have my leprechaun hat on, but now I've got my leprechaun hat on and it's time to have fun, or it's time to play with kids, or it's time to cook dinner. So that's just a fun, silly suggestion, but maybe that will help you to think of some things that might work for your situation. Refer to your to-do list often. So we can get so sidetracked. I have a notebook sitting beside me right here on my desk, and it's got my to-do list for today, and it's too long. I know I'm not going to get all this accomplished, but I wanted it to be something I could reference this week for, okay, these are the things that are on my brain that I'm thinking about needing to attend to when I get an opportunity. And then, like I said, I said 2 to 3, maybe 3 to 5 tasks or something that you can get done. It depends on how much, you can get some uninterrupted time and how long these tasks take. But just pick a few that you can mark off your list, and then take time at the end of your day to plan for the next day. And so plan today, for tomorrow. So take maybe 15, 20 minutes, however long it takes you. Probably not more than 30 minutes to think about, okay, what do I need to have ready for tomorrow? What's on my list? Let me look at my calendar. Let me check my email one last time. And that way you have an idea of what to expect. And again, that's really comforting to a brain that likes to know what the routine is going to be. And then set healthy boundaries around work and home. So like I said, don't let the time spill over where, it's 5 or 6 o'clock at night and you're still trying to check in if you don't have to. Maybe your job requires that. But if you don't have to, set that boundary so that you feel really good about the work that you've done, and then you get the great amount of rest that you need to actually feel rested and revitalized for the next day. And that will prevent you from burning out. So some of the adrenaline and some of the, excitement of what's going on, and I mean excitement kind of in an adrenaline way. You get a little bit of a rush, a boost from your cortisol, from your adrenaline when you're under stress. But after a few weeks, we're kind of in that point where that can shift to being exhausted and burnout, when we have depleted those stores of energy. And so we're in that time now where we have to think about the long term. Okay, long term, how can I set myself up for success? And so you don't want to burn yourself out. So planning for tomorrow, today, and actually thinking about healthy boundaries is going to be a great way for you to really pace yourself and think about how, you can work really well, and you can do it in a way that's life-giving to you and that protects your time and your health and well-being. Communicate your needs to your spouse or your partner. I'm seeing a lot of this on social media. I'm in a lot of groups, to support mental well-being, or to support, young families on social media, on Facebook groups, and I'm seeing so many spouses and partners who, aren't communicating their needs, and there's a lot of conflict around that right now because every day looks a little different, and how we normally have negotiated who takes care of what responsibilities probably needs to change, and probably hasn't changed a whole lot since we've been at home. And so have that conversation of, here's my expectations, what are yours? Here are my responsibilities right now, what are yours? And think about how you can kind of reassign responsibilities right now, and can kind of clearly communicate your needs, because your needs are probably different. Your emotional needs, your physical needs, your work needs, your support needs, those probably are all different. So have that conversation, because you're going to be, kind of having some conflicts if you're not on the same page with that. And, most people can't read minds, and so it's really important to remember that. I'm guilty of thinking that, my spouse can read my mind, and I have to remind myself, okay, he may not know what stress I'm under right now. Maybe I should communicate, this is what I need. And so right now I need him to keep our kids from coming and interrupting me. In an hour, it'll be a different need because we'll be on to something else. And so think about that and how you can plan that into your day. And then again, kind of circling back to that last 30 minutes of your work day, tidy up your work area, try to eliminate any piles or clutter, or maybe things that you don't need to keep. Maybe you finished something and you don't need to keep that piece of paper. Write down your goals for the next day. Follow up on any unfinished work or anything that you need to communicate, maybe with colleagues or things. Check your calendar, and then, shut things down for the day. So really have a clear ending to your work day. And I think that will be really important for you to kind of move forward and shift gears. Because when you leave things undone, your brain is really designed to keep bringing those things back up. Your brain will say, oh, you didn't finish this or you didn't finish that. And so while you're trying to prepare dinner or eat dinner or maybe have a movie with the family, you're going to be thinking about those things. So try not to leave things unfinished. And then when you think about having some routines, I'm going to break it down into morning, afternoon, and evening routines. And so you may not be able to have, a time schedule of, at 9 o'clock, I'm going to do this thing. And then at 10 o'clock, I'm going to do that thing. Or I've got this meeting. You may not be able to say that during this season right now, but you can say, okay, I'm going to wake up. And then after I wake up, these are the things I'm going to do in this order. And the times may have to change, but the order doesn't. And that's what creates the routine. And so we're not as bound to time right now as we're working from home, but we can really stick with a schedule or a routine that, our brain says, okay, we're going to have breakfast. It may not be at 6:30 anymore. It may be at 7:30. It may be at 8. But after breakfast, I'm going to take my supplements. And after I take my supplements, I'm going to brush my teeth. And after I brush my teeth, I'm going to fill my water bottle. And so there's that routine that your brain can then expect. So prepare for tomorrow the night before. Wake up 30 minutes or an hour before everyone else in your house, just to give you some time to get started for the day and make you feel like you're not waking up to, already having to solve a problem, right? And if you've got young children in the house, it's not ever fun when your child wakes you up because they immediately probably need something. I can't speak for your family, but I have 5 children, and all 5 of them are very different, but all 5 of them need something immediately when they wake up. So you want to start out ahead of the game. Eat a healthy breakfast and hydrate. So many times when we feel anxious or we don't feel well, we're actually dehydrated and we don't realize it. We don't drink nearly enough water. Usually about half of your body weight in ounces a day is a good goal. That may be too much water for you. You don't want to drink more than that usually, because you can overhydrate and that's not a good thing. But you probably need more than the traditional 64 ounces of water that's recommended, or that has been recommended for so many years. And so definitely keep an eye on your hydration. Have a morning routine. So I gave you an example there of, breakfast and then supplements and then brushing your teeth and then, water and getting ready for the day. So whatever your morning routine looks like, do what works for you, but try to keep it structured. And then get dressed to shoes, like I said, and get ready. And for me, shoes don't signal that I need to work, but putting my watch on does. So think about if there's a thing that will help you kind of get in that mindset. It may be something different for you, but that will be a good thing for you to get started, because with, having a routine that needs to adjust, it's funny, we do so many things out of habit. Most of the things that we do, around 92% of what we do every day, is out of habit. And so when we have to break a habit or break a routine, it takes a lot of time for us to figure out, okay, what's working for me, what's not working for me, and what's helpful. For me, it's the watch. For you, it's something else probably. And then here's a sample work schedule. So this is a really good one for families who need to have some really good one-on-one time with kids. So planning your workday could look like both adults are up in the morning. And again, pick the times that work for you and your family. And so adult A might have work and personal time. So maybe I take the morning shift to do work and personal time. And so that might be a Zoom call. That might be, being able to do some meditation or exercise for personal time. But we'll do that morning shift. And during that morning shift, the other adult in the house would be doing kind of the childcare, schooling at home needs. And then both adults are kind of on for lunch. So I'm a nurse, so we talk a lot about schedules. I'll joke with the kids that mama's clocking in or clocking out. And we've always done that. It just happens that this works really well for them because they're used to that language. And so you're kind of clocked in to work in the morning, and then both parents or adults are kind of clocked in for lunch or break time. And so have lunch together, which is a great thing to do. And then maybe the afternoon time, then you switch. And so if the other adult in the house needs to work, then you can switch gears. So then you become the parent that's really schooling and parenting and really active with them in the moment. And then the other adult gets to do their work time and their personal time. And then after 5 or whatever time you set for your family, then you can set up your personal and family time. Maybe that's a movie, maybe that's dinner. Maybe that's, going for a walk around your neighborhood, and then try to power down around 9. And this would be the time that I would suggest for everyone to really consider 9 o'clock as your power down hour, where you prepare for bed. You've, made sure the kids are in bed. If that's important to you for them to be in bed before 9, probably so. You set your alarms for the next day. You check any last notifications or emails or things. I usually check mine around 9 o'clock just to make sure I haven't missed anything. That's really important to me because I like to be on top of my email. I don't like for my inbox to get overly full. And then limit blue light exposure from devices, electronics, your phone and things. Limit that technology, and then start doing, if you do a face routine, facial care, if you gratitude journal, which I would really recommend right now, writing down 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for every day and being really specific. Do those things as a power down hour, and then try to be asleep or close to asleep by 10 o'clock. Our bodies are designed to be asleep between 10 and midnight. And if you're asleep kind of in that great restorative sleep during that time frame, that's when your body is going to heal itself and restore itself the best. So if you're going to bed at midnight and you're still getting 8 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep because you're just getting up later in the morning, you don't get the same quality sleep as you would if you were to go to bed and have that restorative window of sleep between 10 and midnight. And so if you're struggling right now, that would be the first change. Change the way you're sleeping at night and get plenty of water, hydrate. And those two things will really change just your whole outlook and your physical and mental well-being. Because so many times when we don't feel well, we think we're anxious about work or about something else. And when really we're just not getting good sleep and we're not getting enough water to drink, or maybe we're not getting enough daily exercise. So for prioritization, we really want to think about that to-do list that we've made, and we want to think about what's most important. We want to think about what we need to get accomplished in our days, especially as we're having to really hold ourselves accountable for that more and more. And so if you don't know what's most important, maybe think about what are you dreading the most. And that may be the thing that you need to accomplish. It may be the most important thing. It may just be the most time consuming thing, or it may just be the thing that you need help with and you don't really have, someone right there in the office to help you. So think about it in one of those ways and then do that task first and you'll feel so accomplished. That's why so many people recommend that you exercise in the morning, because they're thinking about exercising in the morning is usually what people dread. And so they're recommending exercise because then you have gotten something accomplished already in the day before you even go to work. And so exercise in the morning is not great for everyone, particularly people who have autoimmune issues. It can be really aggravating because our body's cortisol, our stress hormone, is higher in the morning. So a lot of those folks will actually do better with exercise in the afternoon. But think about some things that you could do in the morning before your day even gets started that's going to set you up for success. And so Brian Tracy has a book about eating the frog, and it's based off of a quote of Mark Twain's about if you eat the frog the first thing in the morning, it's the worst thing that you'll do all day, and then you'll feel better about everything. So Mark Twain is one of my favorite authors. I think that's fun how that ties into productivity. But eat your frog. Eat the thing that, is going to be the hardest for you to kind of get through, and do that thing, and then you won't procrastinate as much and you'll feel like you've had a small win and you'll be able to move through your day, knowing that you've accomplished, at least this one big thing for the day. So for productivity, there's a technique called the Pomodoro technique that is Italian for tomato. And so it looks like a little tomato timer. I don't know if any of you have a kitchen timer that looks like a tomato. Maybe not, but my grandmother did. And so this is just a suggestion to, once you have that to-do list that we've kept and we're working on this week, then set your timer. This suggests for 25 minutes. I actually would say probably 45 minutes. Set that timer and work for 45 minutes and then take a 15-minute break. This is a 5-minute break, but I would say 45, take a 15-minute break, and do that every hour for 4 hours. And then after the 4th hour, which is probably if you're doing 8 to 12 as your workday, then you're going to have a break for lunch. So take that extended break, and then when you come back for lunch, you can do another 2 or 3 or 4 hour time block. And you'll be amazed at how much work you get done. This is great for projects, personal projects, house projects, or work. You can get so much done. This is true if you have to do some writing or studying for something. It's just a great method, and it doesn't change what you're doing so much that you think it's going to be super impactful. But when you try it, people really enjoy it. This is something I do with my students a lot. I teach them this technique and they don't think it's going to be overly helpful. And then they all come back and they're really surprised and they say, I tell everyone about that tomato timer. So if you don't have a kitchen timer, maybe you use, an Alexa Echo Dot. Maybe you just use the timer on your phone. But there are some free apps that you can download to your phone or your computer, and they'll be really helpful to you. But it doesn't have to be fancy, and it's definitely something that you can do for free. But I think you'll see a lot of improvement in your productivity with that. Practical tips, I think I like these the most because this is something that I implement all the time and I learned the hard way, because I've always been in graduate school or working full time as I've had my children. And so with 5 children, I've had to really learn how to multitask. And so using earphones or earplugs while working is really helpful for me. If you can do it, even if it's just listening to instrumental music, something without words, if you get easily distracted, that can be really helpful. Set your office hours and set your office hours for yourself, but also set them for your colleagues. If you have students, for your students, for your family, if you have family living with you, so that you know that, okay, I may be working 6 or 7 hours today, but there are 2 hours in the morning, maybe 10 to 12, where I'm going to be on Zoom calls, or I'm going to be emailing important emails, or I'm going to be making phone calls, and I really need those 2 hours to be pretty uninterrupted. And so those office hours can really serve you well. You can even post them on your office door or on your computer, or in the kitchen, whatever is helpful to you, just as a reminder to you and everyone else. Okay, this is my office hour time. And then try to work in a space that has a door if you have people who are going to disrupt you. But if not, just try to distract yourself and others with the signage and with the earphones or the earplugs, and pretend you're not at home. So if the doorbell rings, maybe don't go answer it. If the phone rings, maybe you don't pick it up. Maybe you just let it go to voicemail. Um, Mute distractions as much as you can. Social media, I mean, there are so many alerts and notifications that are going on right now. And so it can be really easy to have alerts popping up on your screen, which is happening to me right now, or on your phone. And some are important and some are not as important. But if you can mute distractions, put your phones on Do Not Disturb, or turn the notifications off of social media right now, that might be something that's really helpful, not only for work productivity, but just your mental health. Building that accountability, like we talked about, you may need to have a couple of different accountability buddies, maybe one at work, maybe your best friend for your personal life. Manage your email inbox, and I'm going to show you in our toolkit some tips for that. Track your progress. I've written down a couple of things, just as I feel accomplished with something, I've made a list of, okay, COVID-19's at the top, and I've written down, okay, here are the things I've accomplished that I probably wouldn't have ordinarily accomplished if I hadn't had this time. And that's helping to remind me that when I don't feel so productive, that I'm still making progress toward goals. And small progress is still progress, and it's still worth celebrating. And then a good technique is this acronym WIN, what's important now. And so if you ever, go to counseling, or you do, personal development, kind of resources, it's an acronym that a lot of people use because, in order to win in this moment, I need to do what's important now. And what is important now? And, that might be answering an email, that might be making a phone call, but just do that. So just do the next right thing and keep going, with the structure that we're setting up, and you'll be set up for success with that. I hope this is helping y'all. I see a couple of questions and some things in the chat, and we're going to wrap up soon. I'll probably go over just a few minutes since we got started late, and I want to give you all of the time, but whatever works for you. If you need to end the call early, or come back to this will be available. So just know that I'm going to continue talking just so that y'all can get all of this content, and thank y'all so much for hanging in there. Habit stacks, I think it's so important to talk about that. Habits are helpful, especially during times of stress or transition, and you need to build habits one at a time. When we think about personal development, we think we're going to change everything all at once, and that's when we set ourselves up to not be successful. So focus on adding in one good habit and then crowding out the rest of them eventually with the good habits that you set up. So don't try to start a new exercise routine, increase your water, sleep differently, work differently, parent and school your children differently. Don't try to do all of that at one time, because you're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to follow through because it's too much. It's overload. So pick one thing. I would start with sleep and water first. That would be my starting point. And then stack the habit with something that you already do. So most of us are really great about brushing our teeth. We can do that pretty easily. And so we don't think about it. It's just automated. We get up, we brush our teeth. And so think about what you can stack with that. So if you need to take some vitamins now that we're, needing to support our immune systems more, then say, after I brush my teeth, I will take my vitamins. And then put your vitamins near your sink where you brush your teeth, and that's a habit stack. And so you're going to be more likely then to take your vitamins continually on a regular basis. And once you're doing that on a regular basis without having to think about it and without missing that every, day or 2 days, then you've created a habit stack, and now you can go do something else. So after I take my vitamins, I will fill my water bottle and just build from there on. You've started that really great foundation and just go from there. So staying connected can be really difficult. For us, meaningful connection is important. Using social media is a great tool, but maybe you need to think about how you need to be better supported. Maybe commenting on, people's posts isn't making you feel connected, but maybe reaching out with a text message, and sharing a fun quote or meme or something is. And so think about, how you can stay connected while, kind of physically distancing. And then think about how you can stay in touch with people at work so that you continue those good relationships that you have. Utilize our, work email for business related stuff, and, kind of try to keep that, because we're getting probably a lot of emails, more emails than we normally would. But call and text your colleagues and check in, as you feel led, as you feel like it's appropriate. Engage in the Zoom calls and virtual meetings that you're having so that you feel really connected and present. Stay informed about what's happening with the UA community. UA is doing a great job of keeping us informed and giving us updates, and so stay tied into that. Ensure that you have clear communication with everyone that you're working with, and be open to feedback and input, because we're all really working to make this time be really meaningful and productive. And everyone is trying to be helpful, I think, when they offer feedback and input. Make use of free online resources. There's so much available right now because companies are reaching out and recognizing their needs. And so PBS Kids is offering a lot in terms of, kid resources, and I'm sharing more of that tomorrow. There are lots of gyms and things that are offering virtual classes for free. So just know and utilize those resources, and ask your friends. Ask your friends what they're taking advantage of during this time. And then set regular times to connect with your friends and family. So I'm going to skip through the role of stress. I really cover this in our talk that we had on Thursday of last week, but I just want you to know that the role of stress can be a really helpful thing. It's not good or bad, it's just necessary. And moderate levels of stress are actually important for you to be able to improve your performance and your efficiency. And just know that stress is a necessary part of our lives. It's not the goal to eliminate it, like I said earlier. And then a lot of the stressors that we're facing are unique, but some of them are the same, work-life balance, family responsibilities, this new social distancing that we're being asked to do, financial concerns, childcare issues. And so there's a lot here that can be a stressor. And so I'll list those there for you, but think about your triggers. And so identify your individual triggers to stress and write those down. So it might be the dog barking. It might be the kids needing something. It might be, someone dropping something on the floor and there's a spill to clean up. Think about the stressors and the triggers that are pretty, consistent in your life. And then think about how you can manage your stress better and how you're going to decide to respond. And so decide that you're not going to, be upset or mad at the dog when the dog barks. That's expected. So think about, okay, if the dog barks while I'm on this important Zoom call, what are some things that I can do to try to prevent that? And then if that isn't prevented, because real life happens, right? Then what am I going to do? How can I handle that in the best way possible? And that will really help to cut down on some of your stress. So I included that just from Thursday's presentation because I think it's really important for y'all to think about stress as being something that is just a part of our lives. And then maintaining normalcy, tips to maintain normalcy. When you get this PDF off of our website, the link you can click and go to a TED Talk, and this is the screenshot, COVID-19. It's on YouTube, and it talks about how to maintain normalcy. But if you don't watch it, here are the tips here for you, and it's just control what you can control, tune into your needs, practice mindfulness, and then focus on your breathing. So many times we are out of breath, we're poorly, oxygenated, we're not taking good deep breaths, we're not getting enough sleep, we're not drinking enough water. And just making some changes in those items right there can really make a huge difference in how you feel and how you feel prepared to take on some challenges. So these are the wellness basics I've talked about. The ones I haven't mentioned is just striving for a healthy plate. Number 3, moving your body every day. That might be a dance party in your kitchen, or it might be a walk around the neighborhood with your dog. And then meditate for a few minutes a day. So maybe 3 to 5. 3 to 5 minutes of meditation in the morning and gratitude journaling at night can really change your life. So those are some good things you can add in for free, and just, for under 10 minutes, free and under 10 minutes. Those are the kinds of wellness tips that we like. So I always recommend people to start here with the wellness basics when you're trying to tackle changes, transitions, stressors, or you're trying to improve your health or your mental well-being. These are the 5 things I tell everyone to start with. And then self-care strategies. There's so many things. Again, I included this from Thursday's presentation, just in case you needed some ideas or just a reminder, just a permission to give yourself time to do self-care. So hit that pause button, take a few minutes to do a brain download after this talk, and think about some things that you can do to really, improve the environment that you're in. Maybe it's listening to music, maybe it's going outside, maybe it's working on a hobby that you haven't had time for. Just find what sparks joy for you and try to infuse some joy into your everyday life. So again, and ask for help. You've got the permission to ask for help when you need it. Play, I think play is so important. As adults, we don't play a lot. Even those of us who have young children, it can be a chore to be playful. And so I think right now more than ever, we need that. And so unplug, to rest and reset, intentionally plan to have downtime, to have family time, to have you time. Think about the things that make you smile and do those things. Discover your inner child. What did you like to do when you were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old? And let that inner child play. Let that inner child have some rest and relaxation during this period when you have the opportunity to do that. Try new things, especially once we're able to go out and about and, and get back into our normal routines. Try some new things. I always like to ask people, when is the last time you did something for the first time? And usually we don't have an answer because we kind of get stuck in those routines and habits, and we don't try new things a lot unless maybe on vacation once a year. And so try new things often. Hugs are great. Hug for 20 seconds. You get some good hormone release from that, and kind of, bonding helps, with the hugs and the hormones that you get from touch from those that you live with right now. Laughed often, maybe cry. Crying is good. Happy tears, sometimes sad tears. It's very therapeutic. Again, infuse that joy into your work and into your life, and then try to do some small acts of kindness. Maybe that's sharing, some of your stockpiled, groceries with a neighbor. Maybe that's checking on someone who can't get out. But try to do something, that's kind and considerate for someone else, and you'll really see a shift in your mood and in your positivity. And then celebrate those small wins. And so, small wins might look like you made it through a Zoom call without any interruptions. It might mean that you ate a healthy breakfast when you didn't really feel like preparing something. It might be that you met a deadline early, or you reached out to someone. But try to think about intentional ways to celebrate those. And then this is a toolkit, and I'll just briefly go through it. I know we're a few minutes after our time, but I think we can go through this pretty quickly, and then I'll answer your questions. This is a tip I really like. I'm going to go into this in more detail tomorrow, but if you have young children, using a stoplight sign can help, because most young children understand a stoplight. And so you might want to put a stoplight on your door. And if it's red, then it means don't interrupt, right now. Or if it's yellow, maybe they can come in for a few minutes, but you really need to get back to your task. But it's okay if they really need something. And then green is, I'm working, but it's still okay for you to come in. I think that's a great one. And this is a great tip teachers use this a lot. Elementary school teachers use this as a way for them to be able to work at their desk while kids are working, and they're managing, 18 or 20 or plus, more than 20 students sometimes. So it's a great tip that they utilize. And so your kids may already be kind of in that routine and you just don't know. You just haven't taken advantage of that. So maybe try that. I use it with my kids. I put a stop sign on my door and they know if the stop sign's up or if the door's closed, then they don't need to come and interrupt. So that might really help you with your productivity. Super practical. Here's some great things for email. Checking your email hourly, but trying to only sit down for blocks of time to respond. So you might check your email, but if it's not urgent or time sensitive, you might only respond, 1 or 2 or 3 times a day and just do it all at one time. And that will cut down on how much time you're spending on email. Prioritize your email responses. So again, the things that are time sensitive that need your attention, take care of those. You might want to create an at waiting folder. So if you need to wait on a response, or maybe it's not something that you can, really work on right now until you get back to the office, maybe have an at waiting folder where you pop those emails in as a reminder. And on Outlook, you can actually set up a reminder to be delivered to you. And so it can go into this folder so your inbox is clear, but then you have that digital reminder set up to remind you, okay, in a month, come back to this and make sure that this has been taken care of. You can use template responses. So if you see that you're creating a lot of, the same response, maybe you just have a template that you use. You can actually use filters and folders to organize your email. Try to just take some sort of guideline for how you reply. So if you overthink your responses or over edit them, maybe give yourself a minute or give yourself 3 lines to 3 lines to respond. Maybe you don't want to write, an entire paragraph response if it's not needed. So maybe just kind of limit yourself either with times or lines to make sure that you're not spending too much time on your email. Unsubscribe from unnecessary newsletters and things that kind of clog your inbox that you don't look at. And then set parameters on your email in terms of how much time you're going to spend actually answering to emails. So don't let your email control your workday. Is really the premise of this slide. Make sure that you're managing it well and that you're not using your email as a to-do list like some of us can do. Oh, I've gotten this new email, I need to respond to that. Really use your to-do list that you've written down as a way to guide your day. And then here's 31 days of productivity. So these are 31 things that you can do right now that are free that you can do from home to help increase your productivity. And so again, this will be available, or you can do a quick screenshot. I'll pause really quick if y'all want to screenshot that. But I think these are a fun way. Make a productivity playlist, organize your workspace, write down your goals, check your emails, plan your night before. A lot of the things we've already talked about. But things like change your desktop or phone wallpaper to a motivational quote. I love that kind of thing. So those are some great ones that you can use. And then Mel Robbins technique, if you don't know of Mel Robbins, do a quick Google search and you'll find her. She's got some great resources out in a book that is called The 5-Second Rule. But she is an attorney that was going through a bout of depression and had a career change. And she decided one day when she was having a difficult time that she was going to blast herself out of the bed, that she was going to just say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and blast off like a rocket and get out of bed because she was really battling depression and having a hard time getting motivated. And so she's built an entirely new career based off of this, work that she's done. And I think it's just really inspiring. So if you want to, make a phone call but you're nervous, or, I always use the example that doesn't apply right now. Get on a roller coaster but you're nervous. You just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you just do the thing that you're nervous about. And it's a really great technique to get unstuck. These are some great productivity resources. So invest in your personal development right now while you have some time. The productivity podcast, it's called The Productivity Paradox with Tanya Dalton. She does a great job of talking about how to be productive and how to work well from home. The Brendan Show is another great one that you might want to look at. He has some great resources. Cultivate Your Life with Laura Casey. And then Hal Elrod's book, The Miracle Morning, is a really great resource. And then here's some stress management that I just included from Thursday's talk. If you go back and listen to it, it walks you through all of these resources. The top line is some apps that you can get for free, and then a totally stress-free Spotify playlist that I really enjoy. It's great for de-stressing. And then Yoga with Adrienne, which has some stress relief and meditation for anxiety, some affirmation quotes, and some grounding exercises. So I'll walk through those in Thursday's talk. So that will be all I'll share right now for this, but those are some good ways to manage your stress well. And then we hope that you will follow us on our website and Facebook and Instagram and stay connected with us in that way. And I'm going to take questions. I'm going to look at the question and answer and go check out the chat. But if you would like health and life coaching, it's available for free. You can set it up a time with me. Just email me at abby.horton@ua.edu, and I'll be happy to do some life coaching with you. I am a certified health and life coach, and so I would be happy to offer that to you. And it is free as part of your benefit for working at UA. We just started offering that this year, so it's a great resource and tool for you, and I'd love to do that for you. So let me go and check the questions. Suggestions for not sleeping well during the night, waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to fall back to sleep. So what I would suggest you do is, if you're having that issue frequently, is to try to get up and get out of the room. And don't take your phone, don't look at the clock, because so many of us look at the clock and we start calculating how much sleep we're not going to get, and that adds to the stress. And so just get out of the bed, go get some water, try not to eat anything, try not to, do any TV watching or anything like that. Take a book and read that, or take a notepad and write down some things that are bothering you. Just kind of do a brain download, and that may help you go back to sleep within about 30 minutes. If you can't fall asleep within 30 minutes of doing those things and it's happening more frequently, then you probably need to reach out to your doctor and just ask them if there's something that they may need to check or may need to advise. There may be something else going on. But right now, there's a lot of stress. Things are kind of uncertain and unknown. So I wouldn't be surprised that you're having some sleepless nights. I had the same issue last night, but I did a brain download and I was able to go back to sleep. I was trying to add to my to-do list. Oh, thank you for the compliment. It just says, thank you for the information, and will you send a copy of the recording? The recording will be on the wellness website, so wellness.ua.edu, and Carolyn and Ashley will get that posted sometime this week for y'all so that y'all have it in real time. And so now I'm going to just go check the chat before I say goodbye and sign off. Let's see. Oh, thank you for the compliments and all of the nice things y'all said. Y'all are so great. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of the compliments and the feedback. All right, I'm going to check one more time to make sure. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Well, thank y'all so much for joining me. I hope that this was really helpful. If you have family or little children or just want some more information, you're welcome to come and join us again tomorrow at 10 a.m. We're going to be talking about creating, routines and rhythms for home and family. So we're going to talk more about the family aspect of it. And this is probably not a ton of new information for you, but I hope it is a really good reminder and a good way of giving yourself permission to really pause, reset, rest, and take care of yourself during this time. And if I can be of any help to you, then I will be happy to help in any way I can. Just send me an email and I'm happy to help. And thanks so much for bearing with us during the technical difficulties. I appreciate it. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Go get some rest, y'all. Thank you.